Good Thursday afternoon to you. 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. A little later in the show, Paul Hoynes will join us, Guardians beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Guardians getting ready for the home opener tomorrow against the Mariners. Jack Duffin from the Orange and Brown Report will also join us. We begin by talking Browns as well. Cam Newton went to a pro day to show he still had it after not playing at all last year. Newton also took to social media to say would be willing to accept a backup role and named some guys he's more than happy to back up.
I wanted to set the record straight by saying, this is how I feel. There ain't 32 guys that's better than me. But I also know that I could also be a backup. I want to win. That's the only reason why I play this game. It's not for individual accolades. They come, but that's not the main sole focus of why I play. I play because I want to win. I want to hoist any type of team award, and that's what it really pretty much comes down to. So any team that I've ever been on, I just desired the win more than anything else. As I made my list, I was saying to myself, like, who would be some guys that I could serve? You know what I'm saying? Like, who could I take up under my wing and, in essence, allow them to be the face, but also I just would want to help them in any type of way. Players that I would back up. Number one, I'll back up Deshaun Watson. It goes without saying, me and Deshaun Watson's relationship, he was on my 707 All-Star team. I've grown to admire the person, the athlete that he is, going through a lot of turmoil, but I believe that's behind him, and I know I can provide services for him on the field as well as off the field.
And Deshaun Watson responds to that. That is my family, and that is in response to Cam Newton saying he would back up Deshaun Watson. Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier, host of Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Quincy, if I'm the Browns, I'm thinking about that. I got to be honest. He's a veteran guy, and let me put it to you this way. I know people love Josh Dobbs. If Deshaun Watson misses 2 or 3 games, and you need 2 of those 3 games to get to the playoffs, who are you rolling with? Josh Dobbs or Cam Newton?
I mean, it's a reason why Josh Dobbs wasn't even a starter when Jacoby Brissett was here, right? No disrespect to Josh Dobbs, but there's a limit to what you can do with him. And look, there's limits to what Cam Newton can do, but 65% of the old Cam Newton is better than 100% of NFL backups. Okay, like, that's just what it is. And when he says there's not 32 guys better than me, I think that's what he means is, like, I got to find my win in backing up somebody I don't think I add value to in the room, and I don't think I add value to as a player. Like, that's not winning to him. What's winning to him is being in a situation where, hey, he might play, he might not, but he knows he can add value. And one of the things I think people are going to overlook, because, yes, Cam Newton's clearly a better player than Josh Dobbs, even today. But also, Cam offers something to Deshaun Watson that you cannot find with any other backup quarterback in the NFL, which is Cam has been to everywhere that Deshaun Watson wants to be in his career. He's been an MVP. Deshaun Watson has never done that. He wants to know how to do that. Cam Newton has done the work, been there. He's been a Super Bowl quarterback. Now, he didn't win, but he can tell you exactly what went wrong in the preparation for that. Right, like, he has value as somebody who has went through a very polarizing patch of his career and had to recover in the public eye, similar to what Deshaun Watson is doing right now. He has so much valuable experience under his belt, both in life, in football, out of football, as a football player, that the value there to have him back up Deshaun Watson is one that I don't think you could just put in pure analytics. Is one that you have to think about when it comes to personal relationships. And I think having Cam be there to back up Deshaun, it's going to be even bigger. Honestly, would be a big deal for this team, even if Cam never ends up taking the snap.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the other thing is, there's nothing on the field that he hasn't seen. So you go into that. And again, is he the MVP that he was? No. But you know what? If you got to roll with him for a couple of games, I think you're better off with Cam Newton than anything else I see. I know you've addressed this as well in Untitled Unfiltered. Well, do you think Deshaun Watson is elite in 2023?
You know, I was talking to a beat reporter in Houston about this, and it hit me. This is the first actual offseason of normalcy that Deshaun Watson has had since like 2019. Because if you think of it, 2020 was COVID. That wasn't normal for anybody. 2021 was when he had this trade request go down. And then 2022 was when he was dealing with at this point last year, he was fresh out the grand jury, traded to a new team, still dealing with the NFL suspension process. He hasn't had a normal offseason where everything off the field hasn't been a big distraction for him in a very, very long time. This is the first time where he is just back to his normal routine. He's not on the phone with his lawyers all the time. He's not flying in and out across the country to court cases. He's not flying in and out to grand jury summons. He's not flying to New York every other week for a hearing about his ability to play this year. He's not wondering how many games he's going to have to play. All of these things are important when you talk about the factors going into the offseason. And he is absent of that for the first time since 2019? And I think that matters.
Well, the other thing is it's going to be the first normal offseason for Kevin Stefanski as a head coach because he had COVID the first 2 years. He had the whole Deshaun Watson this year. So a lot of things going to work there. All right, again, I know you've addressed this, so let's go through this. The real reason the NFL is still mad about the Deshaun Watson contract, what is it?
Well, it goes into this whole thing, and I remember talking about this last year. It was like the escrow rules in the NFL are like crazy, where you got to put down 80% of that, and that's why that's been the quiet disincentive to other owners to give out guaranteed contracts so that they don't have all these guaranteed contracts going around. And now it's getting to the point where, hey, it might be undeniable that quarterbacks get this. And once quarterbacks get this, these escrow rules don't make any more sense for the league. It's not actually cheaper for them. They're going to want to change it. And when was the last time that the league has been in a position to want to change something that the NFLPA would want to give up? But when you're in a situation where you're kind of indifferent about the rule that they really, really want change, that's leverage. That's a lot of leverage, right? And I think the NFL owners are wary of that, and they don't want to put themselves in a position of where they are going to have to kind of give up some leverage to the NFLPA and the collective bargaining agreement. And that's what this is really about, right? Like all of the arguments about Deshaun Watson's contract and the anger seems to come from a labor perspective, a collective bargaining perspective, right? We've heard that the NFLPA is heavily involved in helping Lamar Jackson with his contract situation. And we are hearing, about this Deshaun Watson contract being the catalyst. I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a holdout and the next CBA that they're going to blame that on Deshaun Watson too, right? Like they're in the Cleveland Browns, because they feel like they're at the tipping point. And if they reach that tipping point, then they're going to have to give up something in order to get those escrow rule changes from the NFLPA to like 50, 40, or maybe 10% of the whole league's guarantees. So it's cheaper on them to give out these guaranteed contracts because that's what's happening. It's inevitable. They might as well make it cheaper on themselves.
Yeah.
But you ain't going to roll over and give up that protection for free.
No, and the other thing is those quarterbacks, they're not getting any cheaper, and you can be sure one of them is going to get the guarantee. It might be Jalen Hurts. It might be Justin Herbert. It might be Joe Burrow. One of them will get a substantial guarantee that's close to, if not exceeding, what Deshaun Watson gets. All right, let's
the writing's on the wall.
Let's shift our attention. Let's look at the defensive side of the ball. Juan Thornhill, it's a guy I liked, has played in some Super Bowls already in his young career. You think he's better than John Johnson?
Better is a relative term in football, right? Because, this doesn't matter where somebody has an overall score. This is football where you got a role to play. So is John Johnson a better athlete? He's a better fit than John Johnson was in this role that they're asking him to be in, right? He's a more spontaneous athlete. He's a little bit more rangy, agile. He really does a good job crashing on the ball, filling out certain routes. I think he's going to be a much better fit than John Johnson. Will he be a Pro Bowler? I don't know. But John Johnson wasn't a Pro Bowler in Cleveland. So, yeah, I think Juan Thornhill, he's going to be somebody who's going to provide more value in his role than John Johnson did here in Cleveland.
And again, you're not saying John Johnson's a bad football player. He just didn't do the things they wanted him to do here.
Yeah, they projected him to do different things here, and it just didn't work out. just turned out that he was not capable of being that kind of player. We know the kind of player he's capable of being. We largely see that in Grant Delpit, so I don't think they felt the need to keep John Johnson because of that.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, some tweets from Michael Woods post-surgery. We'll take a look at that. Plus, what about Greg Newsome? What are the Browns thinking with him? Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greeny Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greenysportscards.com.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. So Michael Woods tore his Achilles, has already had the surgery, and he tweets out, "Surgery successful, thank you all." And then he's, "I'm all right, enough pity, time to work, appreciate y'all." Quincy, good to hear that it sounds like Woods ready to move on from that. Not going to be an easy thing to recover from. Achilles injuries never are. Young enough, though, that he certainly can.
Yeah, and that's what you hope with him. I mean, like, not even just for his Browns future, but for his career's sake. You know, this is a 6th-round pick that was hoping to kind of make the team and make an impact this year. Now he's going to be delayed a year, coming off an Achilles. Hopefully he can come back from this strong so he can continue his NFL career, because it did look like it had a good chance of being a bit of a surprise there for where he was drafted.
All right, I know you've addressed this one as well on your shows. Should the Browns trade Greg Newsome for a 3rd-round pick?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, I would say if you can pair Newsome with a 3rd-round pick and move up, top of the 2nd, maybe into the 1st, maybe. But again, you're hoping the guy you get would be as good as Greg Newsome.
And why take that chance when you already got Greg Newsome? You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to win now. Like, I get that people want to. Sometimes with analytics, it's about extending a theoretical window, but you can only extend a window so long before you limit yourself to being just a playoff qualifying team and not a championship qualifying team, right? And the ideal is we're going to be really good for 2 years. Then for 2 years, we're going to be focusing on being really good in 2 years. Like, that's just what it is. And getting rid of Greg Newsome right now doesn't help that goal. So I think they're probably going to stay pat. I would not trade Greg Newsome for a 3rd-round pick or for a prospect. Like, I think Greg Newsome is somebody that, hey, if you can get somebody that can help you right now for him, maybe you consider it. But other than that, he's a good enough player where you just got to keep him.
Yeah, and you can never have enough cornerbacks in the pass-happy NFL without question. This is an interesting one. So other than Deshaun Watson and Myles Garrett, which player on the Browns roster can they least afford to lose?
Oh, it's Nick Chubb, right? Like, I think it's got to be Nick Chubb. because obviously Myles Garrett keeps people at bay on defense. Deshaun Watson is going to add an element into that passing game, and then Nick Chubb adds an element in that running game that changes a lot of things for how you can cover Deshaun Watson. Now, those two have to figure out exactly how they're going to get those carries to him, what the flow of that's going to be, and that's what the whole offseason is going to be for. But we saw what a good running back could do for your team when Christian McCaffrey joined the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I love analytics. I love numbers, but sometimes we go too far with it, and we think just because you think you could find average running back play easily, that means that elite running back play does not matter. Elite running backs help you win games. When was the last time Sean McVay really looked like a genius? Is when he had good running back play, right? Like, it's not a coincidence that all of a sudden Christian McCaffrey shows up in the town, and boy, oh boy, Kyle Shanahan can play quarterback with anybody. Wonder how that happens, right? Running the ball and being able to run the ball is very, very useful in a football game. It's still very helpful. And I think Kevin Stefanski hasn't lost sight on that. He's always in the top 10 in rushing yards and rushing attempts in the league as an offense. So, yeah, Nick Chubb is the third piece that you can't afford to lose, because he's not just a good running back. He's a great running back, and there's like 3 of those.
So, again, we're in agreement. The Browns are going to throw the ball more. Nick Chubb is still going to be a huge part of this offense with Deshaun Watson, even though they throw the ball more. They want to be more explosive, and that's going to take people out of the box and make Nick Chubb's job a little easier.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're going to throw the ball more, then you need your running back to be better, right? Because he needs to be able to do more with less. Right? That's the idea. Like, any running back can get 100 yards if you give him enough carries, but somebody who could get 100 yards on 15 carries is very valuable. And that's what Nick Chubb can do. This is a guy who averaged like 20 yards a carry in his first 5 games in the NFL on like 6 carries. Like, this is what you need. He's a home run hitter. He's a game breaker. He's a game changer. If you get up by 2 scores in the playoffs, are you going to feel great if all you got back there is a second-year running back from Cincinnati to salt the game away? Or are you going to feel pretty good if you're like, hey, it's 5 minutes left, we're up by 2 touchdowns, let's just run Nick Chubb and hope they can't stop him? Everybody forgets how important the running back is until you need that first down with the final 2 minutes to salt the game away. Everybody forgets it until that point.
All right, along those lines, highest paid running backs based on average annual salary. This from Pro Football Focus. Christian McCaffrey, who we've talked about, is tops at 16.0. Alvin Kamara, 15. Dalvin Cook, 12.6. Derrick Henry, 12.5. Nick Chubb, 12.2. Again, this illustrates Andrew Berry forward thinking when he gives these high-priced long-term deals, because they're always in that range of the top 5, but they don't ever seem to be the top of the barrel after the first couple of years.
Also, something you could do when you offer more guaranteed money than most teams, right? You can avoid some of these cap hits and be a little bit more flexible. So being able to have somebody who's willing to put the money down in escrow is also very helpful to your cap situation. So, yeah, Nick Chubb, that's a very good deal to have him on. I still can't believe, Dave, that people are talking about getting rid of him because he's making just that. He's making less money than Derrick Henry. What are we doing here? Like, why did we? Hey, that's all. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. There are some times when you can't look at the numbers. All right. This from the Bleacher Report. NFL draft targets for teams without a first-round pick. These are top of the barrel, they say. They go Garvin Dexter, defensive tackle, Florida. Zach Harrison, edge rusher, Ohio State. Noah Sewell from Oregon as a linebacker. When you look at them, Dexter, Harrison, Sewell, who do you think makes the most sense for the Browns?
Depends on who you are. A lot of people will go Garvin Dexter. I think that would be a good choice there. I think Zach Harrison makes a lot of sense if you think he can move inside to 3-tech and if he's willing to move inside at 3-tech. I have no idea what those conversations were like with him at the Combine. When you asked him this, you got to make sure that it's something he wants to do, because it's not a change you could do reluctantly. But if he's willing to move inside, I think there's a bright future for him there. I like his length. Sometimes with these guys who are kind of like the ghost of five-star pass. The reason they didn't reach their potential in college was because they were too talented not to be put in a position, but maybe their talents leaned at a different position than being what they were. I think that Zach Harrison is a perfect example of somebody who had to play out of position because he was such a highly talented recruit at edge. And in college, he could get away with some of his limitations at edge because he's so talented. But I think he would have been a more dominant player for Ohio State if he was moved inside. But since edge is a more valuable position in college, especially, than three-tech, and especially in that Ohio State off defense, he just had to be out there, which was a position that doesn't suit him as well. And I think he would be fine on the inside.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the side of the break, we'll look at a mock draft here about a wide receiver prospect who's kind of shooting up boards. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier from Untitled Unfiltered Browns coverage. Let's take a look at this mock draft. It's from draftcountdown.com. They have the Browns taking a wide receiver from Mississippi, Jonathan Mingo. And again, 99th percentile athlete, and I'm getting him in the 5th round. Take a listen to what Peter Schrager has heard about Jonathan Mingo from the people he's talking from. This is from NFL Network Good Morning Football.
Why is no one on your network, or why is no one on ESPN talking about Jonathan Mingo, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss? He's 6'2", he's 225 pounds. Measured it at the combine and did a 4.4 640. You see that Ole Miss uniform, you think A.J. Brown, you think Elijah Moore, you think DK Metcalf. This guy was injured his junior season, missed a lot of time with a foot injury, and didn't put up big numbers in college. He did go all SEC second team last year, but the thought is raw, can still be polished, but an absolute physical beast and works at it. Senior Bowl, works at it, putting in a great improvement in his routes. He was a senior. This is not some guy who's a redshirt sophomore where you're going to say, okay, here's football. Let me teach it to you. Jonathan Mingo is a name.
And Quincy, it would be just like Andrew Berry if he's sitting around in the 4th or 5th round for him to grab a prospect like that.
Oh, yeah. And Jonathan Mingo would be a good bet. And I think, look, they don't have many players that are that physical profile of Mingo. And I think it'll be a great addition. Look, you're going to need wide receivers galore. And I think the Browns have something like a crazy number of wide receivers on their roster. And I don't think that's an accident. That's a position where they not only want to improve, they want it to be a strength. And taking swings like a Jonathan Mingo is how you get to that position.
I know you did a mock draft as well. So take us through I think it's your third mock draft, what the decision came down to in round 3 and what you thought.
Yeah. So, in different mock drafts, you get different big boards, and that dictates where you go. But let's come down to a hypothetical situation where you're looking at Marvin Mims and you're looking at Keanu Benton, both there in the 3rd round, 2 guys that we talked about that we wanted in the 2nd round. Well, you have to consider both of them. I honestly would rather go for Marvin Mims, even though we need a three tech. I think that I feel stronger that Marvin Mims is going to be a great player in the NFL than I do about Keanu Benton. And the reason I tend to go that way is, one, if Marvin Mims is what I think he is, He will be a tremendous help for this team. And you can make the decision on if you want to keep him or if you want to trade him to get more picks to get you in a better position to get a guy like Keanu Benton next year or something like that. I think whenever you come down to a tiebreaker or a tough decision, you have to go in your gut and say, hey, who do I feel like, regardless of my positional needs, has the better chance to be a good player? Yeah. And whoever that guy is, you take him, because a good player will get you more draft picks if that's what you want, right? But a bad player will just be released in a couple of years.
Yeah, and again, you're trying to get guys that are on the roster that are productive, so you don't have to go into free agency and get 6, 7, 8, 9 guys every year. That's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And, you know, I know we talk about trade rumors and trade ideas all the time, and it's usually people that want to, like Anthony Schwartz, that people want to like trade and try to get something out of. But you got to get good players in order to get good trades. So if you want to be able to get good trades, if you want to be flexible, if you want to be adjustable, malleable in a cap tightened team, when you have Deshaun Watson under contract, you need to draft as many good players as possible, because good players are a currency of their own.
All right, this was kind of interesting. A guy that you heard tied to the Browns some when they had a second-round pick was Josh Downs. And so Ian Rappaport tweeting this out, Friday pick would be second, third round. No official visits set up, according to a source. So he has a little bit of a pedigree as well. So a quiet process. I'd be stunned if Josh Downs is around in the third or fourth round, just based on the measurables.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Like, there's always somebody who just falls in the middle of the draft. There's always like a handful of prospects that fall. We'll see what happens with Josh Downs. Like, look, the ideal of where somebody should get drafted gets shakier and shakier as we get past the second and third round, because the first like 15 prospects, those are easy to get. But everything else, like, teams aren't really leaking their whole board to the media, and that's really how this thing gets done. So depending on where teams are at, maybe some teams had some medical issues with them. Maybe there's nothing there, and teams just don't like them for whatever reason. You never know why somebody falls. Most of the time, it's not even for like a specific reason, but there's always a possibility.
All right, before I let you go, this is from the Bleacher Report. Why contenders should or shouldn't trade for Austin Eckler, who has requested a trade. For the Browns, they should. He would be an ideal complement to Nick Chubb, who's recorded more than 27 receptions in one of his 5 pro seasons. In the long run, Eckler can add years to Chubb's contract, taking some of the wear and tear off of him on the ground. Why they shouldn't, Browns would be on the hook for 2 of the league's highest paid running backs. Chubb's contract ranks top 5 in average annual salary among players at his position for 2023. I saw this, and I think Austin Eckler's a really good player. I don't see it. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to spend that capital on a backup running back, especially when the role that you're asking him to fill, like, Austin Eckler can most definitely do it, but I think you can also get somebody with a draft pick to be able to fill that role as well. So I just don't think it is 100% necessary that you have to swing for like an Austin Eckler, right? When it came to filling that role with the X-wide receiver, that's a little different, right? Because that's a little bit more of a special skill set that you can't find every day. And that's why the Browns made the move for Elijah Moore that they did. But when it comes to trying to find a backup running back, I just don't think you need to do that much to get that.
Yeah, and I also think there's probably going to be cheaper free agents that are going to be around, post-draft that you'll be able to do and find a similar skill set.
Yeah, I think Jared McKinnon's still out there somewhere, right?
Yeah, he is.
There's guys that are available.
Exactly who I was thinking. Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
No problem. You have a great day, Dave.
All right, Quincy Carey, make sure you check him out. Untitled, unfiltered Browns coverage. Always really good stuff. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Jack Duffin from the Orange and Brown Report straight ahead. Stay with us. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports for CLE. Take a look at this tweet from Jack Duffin. It's always the Browns salary cap situation, and it's updated regularly. So the cap space, $7.76 million and some change. You see the rookies, a little under $1 million. Then you see this June 2nd, JJ3, 9.75, Jadeveon Clowney, $1.65 million. Let's welcome in Jack Duffin, Orange and Brown Report. So, Jack, those post-June 1st designations, are they part of that $7 million? How does that work as far as the salary cap goes? Explain that. We've had a couple of questions that people have emailed us. So I know you handle this, so take it away.
Yeah, so the players have been cut and can go and sign for somebody else. But effectively, in terms of the salary cap, they're treated as if they're still on the roster until we get to the 2nd of June. And then that's where that extra cap saving comes in. So it's one that that's not included in the $7.76 million. That will come on the 2nd of June and increase their number. They're in no real rush to get that money because most teams will have sort of a fighting fund of about $10 million through the season, pays for guys on the practice squad. If someone goes on injury reserve and you sign somebody else, it all then factors into that. So about 10 million is kind of normal for that. Hey, who knows what's going to happen during the season? A little bit of money to spare.
So there's still some money to go and sign some of the lower end free agents. And I know you've written an article. Let's look at some positions you think the Browns could use a veteran free agent. And again, you've written this article on the Orange and Brown Report. So let's start with running backs. And these are guys that you list. Names like Jerick McKinnon, Latavius Murray, Justin Jackson, Darrell Williams. These are all guys that have skill sets that and have done it at the NFL level. When you look at the Browns, you've got Nick Chubb, and then Jerome Ford looks good, but hasn't really had a lot of NFL snaps.
Yeah, it's just somebody with a bit of security because people might go, hey, I'm excited to see what Jerome Ford's got. The question is, are you ready for him to start the first 4 weeks? Because if Nick Chubb's down injured for the first 4 weeks, are you happy with him being your starter? My answer is no. He's had, I think, 8 carries and 0 targets in the NFL. That's not quite enough from a one-year sample for me to go, hey, let him be the lead back for 4 weeks. So just bring in someone proven. Jerick McKinnon's there as sort of my preferred target. But there's about 10 guys that are still free agents. So it's no need to rush. But yeah, I think they'll bring somebody in just for that peace of mind. Even if it's like a Marlon Mack that doesn't even end up making the roster, but just gives you some security if the rookie or whoever you add in the draft doesn't develop how you want.
And again, you would expect it's not a huge salary hit. So you're thinking like a one-year deal. Is there any idea of what the range would be with a guy like that?
I think it's going to be right down at the minimum. So we're talking like 1.2 million. We're talking nothing in the grand scheme of it. So when a rookie or a UDFA or someone they sign off the street might be 900,000, there's no difference there. So not looking to invest any money, just give me someone that's proven. There is so many running backs that come in through the draft every single year, and they can hit the ground running. It just means you've then got lots of proven vets that are available on the cheap. Just choose your poison and go with it.
So the same article, you looked at some edge rushers, names that could be good matches. You have Rasheem Green, Carlos Dunlap, Melvin Ingram, Shaq Lawson, Bud Dupree, Justin Houston, Trey Flowers. So all very, those are guys expensive, more expensive options. Leonard Floyd, Yannick Ngakoue, and Frank Clark. In your mind, do you think edge rusher is somebody they need to bring in a little more urgency just because you've got Miles, you've got, Okunrankwo, and then you're really young?
Yeah, so I think the more pressing need is still at defensive tackle because you're sort of almost lacking the starter there next to Dalvin Tomlinson. But you just need a number 3 at edge because Alex Wright could be good. But then we're in that same discussion that when we spoke about running backs of like, hey, if Okoronkwo misses 4 weeks to start the season, is Alex Wright ready to be your starting edge opposite Miles? I'm not comfortable doing that. And it's fine when you're developing the roster and you're going through a long build. We're not. We're aiming to win now, and we can't afford to have a guy misses a few weeks and someone else is stepping up. So Justin Houston is the dream for me. If you spend 3.5 mil, bring him in. Happy to spend that a little bit just to get a proven guy that delivers incredible pressure numbers, and it takes away from the Ravens. So we get stronger, the Ravens get weaker. It's a win-win.
Is there a 1A next to Justin Houston who you think would be effective as well?
Yeah, I think other names after that, you can look at guys that are cheaper, like 2. Trey Flowers is somebody that was phenomenal, who's had injuries. I would take that risk because if it doesn't work out and he doesn't play, you've not then gambled and lost anything. So him, Shaq Lawson, just give me a body. I'm not asking for much, just somebody in there. I don't want to go and spend that $6 million because if you go and sign a Frank Clark as your third edge, we don't have a DT2 because you're not realistically going to be able to do both. Whereas if you spend $3 million and a bit on a DT, you've got a nice pairing.
And again, you're looking for this guy to rotate in and he give you some NFL quality snaps from that edge position. All right, defensive tackle. And you mentioned you think this is one that's even more important. So Quentin Jefferson, Ndamukong Suh, Matt Ioannidis, Shelby Harris, Al Woods, who we know the Browns have talked to, and Poona Ford. When you look at those, who do you like from that group?
So Matt Ioannidis has been my favourite all the way through. I think he'd be a phenomenal addition as a 3-tech and Dalvin Tomlinson as the 1-tech. But them 6 are great. There's about another 10 guys who are free agents, so there is lots of choice. But those are the group that have really good pressure numbers, and that's something I really care about. Do you impact the quarterback in the pass game? As long as we can then just get average run stopping, that's fine. Can you disrupt the quarterback? And those guys all can. Quentin Jefferson has phenomenal numbers, 4 in the run game, but Dalvin Tomlinson can help with that.
So they have Hurst, they have Hill, who they've signed, kind of rotational guys at this point in their career, guys you don't want to necessarily count on?
I think looking at how they play at defensive tackle, I think you're going to see about 600 to 650 snaps for Tomlinson. And then you're probably going to have 3 guys that all play around 450 snaps. And that's how the room's likely to break down. So Winfrey's one of those guys, probably Hill or Hurst gets 450. And then you just need a guy that's going to come in and play 450. If you manage to go out and get, say, Matt Ioannidis, well, suddenly you've got 2 guys that are taking, say, 600, 650 snaps. And then that group behind them only need to take 350 snaps each. So it means that you can put more pressure on your starters, or you could put slightly less time on the starters' cards, and then they're naturally going to be more efficient in the times they're out there because it is physically demanding snap after snap as a defensive tackle at that weight and size to cause pressure.
The other thing is those guys allow the younger guys, the Perrion Winfrey, to develop. So you can see where you're at with them, where you don't have to throw them in and get production from them right away, correct?
Yeah, I have zero interest in probably ever drafting a defensive tackle again. I've got no appetite to see it, because if you're not taken in the first round, you probably have to have almost a redshirt year where you're going to play some, but you're not really that effective. Whereas give me 2 proven veterans who are starting, and then give me 2 depth pieces behind that, your Hurst, your Hill. There is enough DTs out there. Chris Wormley you could have on the cheap. You could get these guys cheap. And so give me 4 guys with solid NFL experience. They could all have 4 years plus in the league, prove they can do it. Just bring them in, draft the edges, and then rotate and bring them along. And then just, add me DTs that I know are good. I don't want to be playing around in what we've had in the past, where it's like, hey, are these guys good? And you can take a guy in the third round, probably not going to do anything for you year one. So you've got to stick them in a rotation and struggle, whereas you go out and spend a bit of money and you know what you're getting.
Jack Duffin from the Orange and Brown Report. Now, I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we turn our attention to the draft and some of the Browns guardrails. Jack has an article that has dropped today. We'll talk a little bit about draft with Jack Duffin from the Orange and Brown Report. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
The Great Lakes Collectors Convention, presented by Greeny Sports Cards, takes over the Fieldhouse in Independence, Ohio, where the passions of sports fans, collectors, and sports talk enthusiasts collide. 50,000 square feet of ball card bliss. Hundreds of display tables. Card Shop Live Theater with interactive appearances from the region's most notable sports media. Great cards, great location, great show. Tickets on sale now at greenysportscards.com.
We continue talking Browns with Jack Duffin from the Orange and Brown Report. So, Jack, I know you wrote an article. Can the Browns fit 8 rookies on their roster? I wondered that for a couple of weeks now. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think the case is they could easily get 8 guys in the roster. I've got 6 spots where I think they definitely need to draft someone. A running back, you generally keep 4. We've only really got 2 on the roster. A tight end, because Harrison Bryant's due $2.7 million, so I think they want to get that off the books and get someone as a rookie to develop. I think they want to do the same thing at tackle. Who knows if Wills is the long-term answer, and get Haig off the books. That's $2 million saved there. Edge, they need to just keep getting better and deeper at that position. Linebacker, everyone's basically on a 1-year deal. So other than JOK, get another draft pick in there. And then safety is the last one that there is sort of 2 safety spots open. Who do they want to bring in and fight for that? And then that's 6 easily. There is open spots and they need to draft someone. And then basically every other position other than quarterback, there is an open roster spot. If they wanted to add a wide receiver, there's one that you can easily fit. There's one that you can fit at guard. There's one at center. You could add a corner. Probably add another second safety if you wanted as well. So they can easily get these guys on the roster. You've got about 35 locks at the moment. So there is 18 spots open for whether that's someone currently on the roster. If they sign Al Woods, he then takes one of those spots. But there is plenty of space for draft picks, and they need to keep getting cheap and young, because as these guys move on and start having to pay guys like Donovan Peoples-Jones, you want to keep him next year, well, that's going to be a 10 million player rather than a guy costing about $1 million a year. If you're not bringing in a next wave of young, cheap players, suddenly your roster is going to decline rapidly.
Yeah, and again, that's the challenge, the second and third years of those contracts. All right. Have the age guardrails been a success for the Browns? And I know you wrote an article about it. Take us through what you found with that.
Yeah, so effectively, I did an exercise because there is a luck element to the draft, and said every single draft pick where Andrew Berry selected a player, let's compare who he drafted to the next old player in the draft. So if we're talking, say, the first 2 days of the draft, that's a player who's 23 or older come week 1 of the season, and then it goes up half a year based on 2 rounds deeper. but said who they drafted, an older player on the age guardrails, just the next pick. So if we drafted pick 10, who went pick 11, and then the next player at the same position, just to add a luck element to, hey, the draft is so random in the way it comes out. And what I found is the older players, you would naturally expect they have more success in year one and they actually play that little bit better. They might not have the high ceiling, but they give you something beneficial in year one of instant production. I basically found the complete opposite. Older players over 3 years of the draft that we've had Andrew Berry as GM have not played well at all. Luckily, the Browns aren't drafting them. And people have this idea that go get me the 24-year-old prospect, they're going to be good. There's a reason why they're 24 and they're in college, because they haven't been able to, at 21, 22, beat out great prospects that have gone on and moved to the draft. They've had to wait there and break out at a much older age. So that's telling why I'm not a fan of drafting old players. It's not successful. And as well, then there's knock-on impact. If you draft a 24, 25-year-old after the 4-year rookie deal, he's only got 2 years left in the league. Whereas if the guy's 21, hey, he gets the end of his rookie deal, he's 25, and you can have a second deal and then keep them going. So lots of people thought age, draft the older guys, get that instant production, win now. If you want to win, get the young players because they're probably actually much better than the old dudes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, the younger guys have beaten out the guys that have been in college 3 and 4 years, and they've gone on to the NFL. Again, another article that you wrote, and it includes some of the guardrails that you're talking about. Edge rusher options in the NFL draft. So the check mark would be the age guardrail. RAS is relative athletic score, and then you see the rounds. So the Browns aren't going to be picking in round 2 unless they trade up. So in round 3, you got Zach Harrison, fits the athletic profile but not the age guardrail. Carl Brooks is an interesting one, but again, doesn't fit the age profile in round 4. You've got McGuire, Herbig, and Morris, who all fit that sweet spot of the age guardrail. Herbig checks all the boxes for the Browns. And you see, you've broken it down by the rounds that are there. When you look at those 3, McGuire, Herbig, Morris, who kind of makes sense to you there?
Yeah, so any of the ones with the yellow dash lines are all perfectly fine to draft. They're in that okay threshold. This is the chart that's got all the red X's removed for guys that either have poor pass rush metrics, are really old, or not athletic. So all of these players in this chart are perfectly fine for the Browns to draft. They meet their 3 thresholds of what they've drafted in past D-line players, age, and athletic. I think if they're going to trade up a player that I keep an eye on, or if he's there at 74, Derek Hall makes an awful lot of sense for the Browns. Is personally one that I'm keen to keep an eye on. Carl Brooks is one that I think, and McGuire is another one. Nick Herbig, even though he fits all the metrics, is weighing in at 240 pounds, which just seems unlikely for a player the Browns will draft. They could go and do it as a pass rush specialist, but I think he's probably going to end up in a team that plays more of a 3-4 defense.
Fair enough. Jack Duffin, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much for taking the time with us, Jack.
Always good to chat.
Jack Duffin, make sure you check him out. As you can tell, always great stuff. Orange and Brown Report, really insightful as far as what the Browns are doing relative to their guardrails, as well as that salary cap and free agent stuff. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We turn our attention to the Guardians. Paul Hoynes, Guardians beat reporter. We're talking about the home opener tomorrow. Sports4CLE. I'll be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Sports for CLE continues. We turn our attention to the Guardians getting ready for the home opener tomorrow, 4 o'clock against the Seattle Mariners. Let's welcome in Paul Hoynes, beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, from O'Hare Airport, trying to get back from that road trip. Concourse B, I believe you said. Hoynesy, you were both in Seattle, in Oakland. Biggest takeaways from the first two series, which the Guardians played pretty well in.
Yeah, I think, what worked last year, Dave, is working again. They were 13-6 last season in extra innings. They're 3-0 so far this year in their first 7 games. They score late. They put pressure on the opposing pitcher and the defense. And it produces a lot of, late inning kind of dramatics one way or the other.
The other thing is they seem to be able to make the correct baseball plays 85. You're never going to do them all right, but guys advancing, guys seeing a ball in the dirt, taking an extra base at critical times. And this is still a pretty young team, so it's got to be encouraging to see that.
Yeah, they did it all last year, Dave. This is something Terry Francona preaches. Take advantage, use the skill set that you have. And these guys, make contact. They can run the bases. And you saw it yesterday in Oakland in the 10th inning. There's a walk, there's a ground ball, it scores a run. Then Quan comes up and kind of sends a broken bat single over the shortstop's head. The second run scores, and they win the game. 6-4 in 10 innings. It's, they really do the little things well.
Again, 5-2 on this trip. The 2 losses are in games started by Shane Bieber, where he actually pitched pretty well. Let's talk about the back half of that rotation, though. Zach Plesac didn't look good, coming off a tough year. Quantrill hasn't pitched like he did a season ago. How concerning is that? And I know it's 1 start in the regular season, but it's something to monitor, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's something to look at, and a month or 2 months in, if they're still going like this, you've got to, some red flags get raised. But Quantrill was so steady last year, 15-5. Just what he had 10, 11 game winning streak. I think he's been erratic. I don't know if it had anything to do with him getting ready early to pitch in the World Baseball Classic for Team Canada. But I would think he's healthy, and I would think he'll get things figured out. Plesac, is coming off the 13-loss season, had some bad luck in that first start. He's going to pitch out of the bullpen yesterday if Oakland had tied it in the 10th inning. So, but I think he's scheduled to start Sunday against Seattle. So, hopefully that one goes better than the first one did.
All right. We've talked about some of the starting guys that have struggled. What about Aaron Savali? He looked really good. How important is he, given that McKenzie's down in this early part of the season, that Terry Francona can count on him?
Yeah, it's big for Cleveland and Francona. You've got Bieber. You roll him out, and Hunter Gaddis did a great job yesterday. 6 scoreless innings, and then Savali was the 3rd game of the season. 7 scoreless innings against Seattle. He's going to face them in the opener again. He looks like the guy, Dave, that in 2021 that was headed to the All-Star game before he hurt his finger. That's at least, based on that 1 start and kind of his body work in spring training.
When you look at offensive side of things, does it appear to you like Josh Bell might be trying to do a little too much in the early going with his new team?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's only natural. He was walking so much. He had like 6 walks. He was leading the big leagues in walks, and then he had that kind of tough. He's always been a patient hitter, and I think maybe he's kind of perhaps caught in between. He knows he's here to drive in runs, hit the ball over the fence, but he doesn't want to get out of character either. He wants to swing at pitches in the strike zone. So he might be, dealing with that right now.
And again, let's see. Hopefully, it kind of settles into things at Progressive Field and they take off. What about the job Miles Straw has done? It looks to me like he's being a little bit more aggressive early in counts, and I think he's probably a 250, 260 hitter. Didn't have a great year a season ago, but he's a guy that I expected to bounce back, and I like what I've seen.
Oh yeah, Dave. He's been dynamic. It's almost like you got two leadoff hitters right now. One hitting ninth and one hitting first with him and Quan. He's walking, he's stealing bases. I think he leads the American League in stolen bases, and he's driving the ball. I think last year he didn't want to strike out. He got kind of, carried away with that. And he was making soft contact, not to strike out. And now they want him to be a little more aggressive, to start driving the baseball. And, in center field, he's about the best there's going out there. One of the best that's going out there. You saw that catch in the 8th inning against the fence to rob Seth Brown on yesterday. Just a great catch, great athletic ability in center field.
How impressed have you been with Stephen Kwan? A guy, great rookie year, but early going, it looks like you're getting more of the same from him.
Yeah, it's like a carbon copy of his start last year. He just. He knows what his, I think he knows his ability, and he knows what he does well, and he doesn't try to go outside of that too much. Sometimes you see him take a big swing or swing at something in the dirt, but most of the time he's making contact, and he knows the situation. He knows when he has to do that. It's just really fun to watch him play.
Let's talk a little bit about the bullpen. By and large, they've been really good. There have been spots, and there are always going to be spots. How important is the bullpen? How impressed have you been with what you've seen?
Yeah, Dave, I think, we've seen this bullpen kind of mature a little bit, in these first 7 games, if you can say that. Emmanuel Clase gave it up, but, and it pitched a couple days in a row, so they had to find a different way. Trevor Stephan came in and got the save Sunday in Seattle. Eniel De Los Santos has kind of stepped up into that 8th or 9th role. When Karinchak, was unavailable. Eli Morgan came in and got his first save. In the big league career. So you're seeing some other guys emerge besides Class A and Karinchak. And that's a good deal for the bullpen. That's it's a versatile bullpen, and it's getting deeper, it seems, this year.
How concerned are you with the couple of outings by James Karinchak? Do you think the pitch clock is a little bit in his head? Do you think?
I think it was in Seattle. I think it definitely was in Seattle. They got to him a little bit, but then he came back and pitched another inning, and in Seattle, and did all right. He got burned in Oakland, but that was like normal. The problem was he walked the leadoff guy, and then he got 2 outs, and then Tony Kemp's bloops one's into right field. That can happen, but this is a guy that he walks a tightrope, man. He's either going to win or he's going to lose. There's rarely an in between with him, because he throws 2 pitches. Everybody knows what's coming. And he's either going to strike you out or walk you.
Pitch clock. Let's talk a little bit about the pitch clock, the bigger bases. So far, it seems to be something that is working and something that plays to the advantage of the way the Guardians play the game.
Yeah, I think you're right, Dave. They play at a fast pace. They want to play at a faster pace. The game is moving faster now. I think that really kind of plays right into their hands. The one bad thing is these games are ending so fast. You're not even done writing with. You're right on deadline with anything. You're like you're pulling your hair out trying to keep up with the pace of play.
Before I let you go, how exciting has it been, and how exciting do you expect Progressive Field to be tomorrow at 4 o'clock for that home opener?
Yeah, I bet it's great. A home opener, the season opener, whatever it is at Progressive Field in Cleveland, it's like Christmas in April. It should be like a citywide holiday. Kids shouldn't even have to go to school. To cut class and go down there. It's really fun. It's one of my favorite days of the year.
And Guardians 5-2, so playing well as well. Paul Hoynes, Thanks so much for taking the time from O'Hare Airport, trying to get back from that season opening road trip. Appreciate it very much, Hoynesy.
All right, Dave.
Paul Hoynes, make sure you check him out. Always great stuff regarding the Guardians, pages of the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. No show tomorrow because of the holiday weekend and the home opener. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock on Sports for CLE. Have a great weekend, everybody, and go to the opener to see the Guardians. See you Monday at 4.